Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody had a good day and has had a good couple weeks here in the markets. It's been kind of a little bit of a bumpy ride. The way this works is you guys spit out the symbols, and I'm going to go give my analysis on it, do technical, and throw you information I know on them. So get yourself started here, and let's get going. And I'll just start off with the general talk of the markets, but while you guys throw some symbols up there, and then we'll get going from there. So the S&P 500, we had this huge sell-off last week that was tied to this pair trade with China, that they were borrowing, I'm sorry, Japan, borrowing money from there and then using that to invest in the US market, and that blew up. And nobody saw this coming. We had this big 2-day down move off of it, and we've completely taken that back now. So the pair trade. So, this is a good thing, right? We've already taken this back. We're almost back to the 50-day. This little gap here that we had, it got filled today. That's gone. And this nice move up. The first down candle in this was over some hot economic data that suggested that we were entering a recession. And that was the first time we got that big hit. And when you think about why we're so far off of the highs here, it was because earnings season hasn't been that good. The Fed has been kind of wishy-washy about what they're saying. But, last Monday just felt, to me anyway, completely overdone, that the market here had just gotten absolutely carried away from itself. And, so here we are pushing back up. And tomorrow we have a CPI report, which is more important than the PPI today. And if that's cool, the market's going to want to rally. It's going to be like, okay, risk back on. We're in an election year. There's going to be money being spent. And I will tell you this, no sitting president, and I know Biden's not going to be sitting president, but Harris's extension has ever survived a recession and been reelected. So I highly doubt this country slips into a recession in the next couple of months before the election is over. So for me, we get above the 50-day tomorrow, and it's game on, and a quick move back to that 555 area, and then you're not back far from all-time highs. And now it's a nice little correction. If you deployed into it, congratulations. I'm looking to deploy more tomorrow, depending on what we get from PPI. So just some quick thoughts on the overall market here. If that marma comes in bad, we get a bad number, we're going to roll down, because then the market's going to be afraid of that we're not going to cut rates anytime soon. All right, guys, so throw some names out. Jamie, plus. I don't know that name. Let's take a look. E plus, don't know it. It's a smaller name. It doesn't do much in the way of volume. So, you got to know what you're doing. These little names, guys, when you throw these out at me, I don't know who they are. These are micro caps, and you just have to be careful. They don't do a lot of volume. The chart here recovering nicely, 93.50. I'm not sure if that was an all-time high or not, but that was a nice little move up there, and it's taken back more than the market has here. So I think it likes to go back up and test that 93.50. Was a nice move off of that. So I'm guessing it's going along well. And yeah, if it dipped and held the 8-day, I like that. I like how it's been holding the 8-day in here. You can see the gold line. You can see how nicely it's been riding that once it retook it, and that shows support. So if you can get entrances off the 8-day, great, that holds. And if not, look for it to move up to 93.50, and we'll see where it goes from there. LRCX, Lam Research. So, this is always a great barometer of the semi market. This one in AMAT reports on Thursday night, by the way. And the reason is they create the equipment to make your semiconductors, right? To make your chips. So, when they're not doing good, it's usually an indication that their orders are soft or they're not sure. And I'm pretty sure at the last earnings, they were not particularly good. And when you look what's going on in this chart, there's a couple of things that immediately stand out. One, this was the earnings date. I remember that. And they gave soft guidance and they were unsure on their sales. So you create this big gap here, right? Gap is this hole in the chart where everybody who's long gets trapped and you come down. And we didn't even try to touch that gap. So a name is really weak right now, Lynn, when you see it like this, where it doesn't even try to cup that gap. It comes down. It played around this 980 area. It got rejected. Tried to break back above the 8-day back in here, and again got rejected. And it came off the lows from last week of 719. So for me, your next big area to take is the 200-day and the 21-day, which are together right here, the green line, the black line. That's your next big target there. And if it can get back above that and the semis are strong, then you would look for a move to 920 to go from there. If it fails there, and could be a short or could be just not ready. The semi sector in general has been struggling a little bit. So that's what I think about that one here. We have NVIDIA reporting in 2 weeks on the 28th, I think. That's going to be huge for the sector. How that one goes is going to say a lot. TO. There we go. Another one I'm not real familiar with there, Jamie. TEO. There we go. You like these small guys, huh? Again, you got to know these stocks. And the one thing, Jamie, I'm happy to look at these for you, but you got to know what they do in their business and what they're about because they're down like this. They're not traded much for a reason, right? So you're talking under 200,000 shares a day. I personally don't like to trade or even invest in companies that trade this low for the most part, unless they're a larger company. I don't know anything about this one. Argentina Telecom, not a sector I'm familiar with or would want to trade personally. That said, you have a nice V-shaped recovery coming on this one after the fallout. So you're taking the 8 and the 21 day and the 50 day. And you can see up here, your next convergence area is right around this $7.40. Your 200 days there. You have your 100 days sloping down towards that. That 740 up to 760 is your kind of big range here on this one. It's going to need to break above both of those, and then above that 760, then it can start to push back up. Just realize this is a slow mover. It doesn't move very far. It doesn't move very much on a daily basis. So, I would be nice and easy with this one here. ALB, lithium play. So I loved this company a couple years ago. The problem going on with lithium and right now and why this stock's getting hit so hard is that, we're looking at a situation where all of these EV sales are, companies are struggling, right? EV sales are way off off a cliff on most companies and even Tesla. And you can see after a big run up here, ALB high was 330, come way off the highs all the way back down here to 77. And if you go back to the daily chart after looking at the monthly, you can see it's just been this massive downtrend. It had this area here where it digested. It turned out to be a bear flag formation. It rolled over. And what I look at, it hasn't touched the 200-day in forever. And that is just a sign of a very, very weak stock, Arnold. It's riding the 8-day down. Notice it's almost never closing above. If it does, it hits the 21 days rejected. So for me, these fast moving averages are still in control of the stock and is still pushing down. It put another multi-year low in here on Monday, yesterday, and it just a little bounce. So for me, until it can retake the 21 day, the stock remains in a weak phase. And even then, I'll be more careful with it. I think what you really need to see in this one is a change in the EV space and the amount of lithium being used in needs. And right now, there's more lithium mines coming online, so there's more competition as well. So it's just not feeling it. I think I'd be careful with this one. This one could keep heading lower. And I'm just in general, other than Tesla, avoiding the EV space and anything associated with it right now. That help? Palantir, okay, one of my favorite stocks. I sat in this one in a lot of pain for a long time before getting out. So let's talk about this one. This one here is a company. They're still a smaller base company in terms of how much revenue they actually do. They are turning a profit now for the last couple quarters. Most of their revenue still comes from their government side of the house, but they have been steadily growing their commercial side, and that is much more profitable. And that's why you see them moving up. They had a great quarter. They guided up yet again, and they pushed all the way up here. You see the gap from earnings day. So from that earnings day move, after it came off the lows, you can see that gap from 24, 23, and it's come all the way up and it's touched this 31 area now on a very nice move here and a nice big run. For me, at this point, I'd be a little bit more careful with it here. I love the chart, and if the market goes, it's probably going to run with it. It's been one of the leaders in the software space. So you can see its all-time high is up here. Let me make one change here. That's better. Okay, its all-time high is up here at 45. And, coming up here at 31 is a big area. It's cleared this. You see it's working through this little gap here it has. You can even see it on the weekly chart. Filled that today to the bottom of the wick. So it's come up and it's taken the easy move here. So at this point, I would look for pullbacks on the daily chart to get into it. I would like pullbacks on the 8-day and hold and look at it there. And, it's run a nice big amount here in the last week and a half. Might need a rest, but if it wants to keep pushing, 3270 area is your next area. And then you start looking up here towards 35 if it wants to keep going. Well-run company. Ford, Ford, I feel your pain. Anybody else who's in this one, I've been in this one for a while. I was getting very close to getting back to whole on this thing 2 weeks ago and hit 1450, which we'll talk about as major resistance, and it fell over on an absolutely horrific report. And RK, I wish I could say something good about this one, but this one's going to be beaten up for a while. That was just a very bad report, likes of which we haven't seen in a long time, and it got absolutely punished. Again, look at the size of this gap. That is a massive gap on Ford. Look at that candle on the first day here. Never even moved up much, came down, and has not even tried to push back up here. Did put a low in last week and is retesting the 8-day here, but you know, for me, you got to kind of look out and say, where could this one go at this point? What I look at here is, get rid of that, is the 52-week low sitting down here at that 9 area might be in play if it gets rejected here at the 8-day. RSI, it's oversold and coming off of it, but, still a bad report. If it bounces here, I would watch where the 21-day sets up. You could also watch this 11 area would be a natural place. You had support there. That would make sense that that was resistance. And then eventually the 200-day for me is the big resistance level if it gets back up there, because you'll notice it likes to use this name as support and resistance and play on it. So, that's what I look for on that when I look at a name like that. Personally, instead of Ford right now, honestly, I prefer GM. If you want to be in the auto space, they're just doing better run company, bounced off the 200-day, coming back up here to the 21-day and just doing better at this point. And this one, if it's going to go, can move higher. But I think overall, I think the auto sector it's a little tough space right now. Consumers are feeling the pinch. And, I keep hearing auto defaults loans are going up and up and up. And so, may not be the space to be in, and prices are up and people really just not trying to buy new cars. Bank of America. So banks are always tough. This one had a fabulous report and popped all the way up here to 44.50. And it felt like it was going to get ready to go and take up that all-time high, which I believe is up around 52, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure on that. And then it just decided to come in. They decided, nope, we love the report, but no, we don't like it now, and it run too much. And then you can see it loses the 8-day, and it's been riding that 8-day down. And here today, it's caught back up to it the last couple of sessions, but it has not been able to break above it. So when we're looking at a name like that, we're looking for it to be able to break above. So make this a little cleaner here for you and get above that with a clean break. And right now it's still trapped. And you can see this 38.50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 different parts of a candle, either wicks on it or opens or closes on it right there, in that area. And you can see this is being a major problem. So this is an area you're going to have to clear for it to get going if it wants to wake back up. Yeah, if you really want to trade the banks, I know a lot of people like Bank of America, but to me, the 2 best names right now that are holding up the best are JP Morgan. You can see the difference in this chart, back above all the moving averages here, curling up today up to 207. The all-time high sitting up here at 217.56, not that far from it. So if I'm going to trade a bank, I prefer that and Goldman. Goldman here trying to break today and getting above this 490 area that's been resistance. Here's your all-time high on Goldman at 517.26. So, Bank of America not getting the love. If you really want to trade the big banks in that name, I think Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are the place to be for me. Square. God, I love the company. The stock has not been doing too great. I used to trade this name every day. I don't trade it all that often anymore. It's become a tough space. So what do we got going on here? We've had a nice move back up to the 50-day moving average off the lows put in here at 54. Their earnings report wasn't bad. I thought their earnings report was okay. It was decent. They're in the process of doing a massive restructuring. They're restructuring their entire company. And then they did something very strange. They did a very large buyback. Companies tend to do, like Square, tend to do large buybacks when they're trying to prop the stock up because they know what they're doing is going to cause some pain. Square's still kind of in growth mode and in acquisition mode, and they have their whole buy now, pay later space, which did not remember hearing much about. But we're wondering how defaults are doing there. For me, it's been out of play at this point. It needs to retake the 50-day here at 64, and then if it can, the next move is up to the 57.85. That is your 200-day. If it cannot break the 50-day, it could roll back down and retest the recent lows at 55. Long term, I love the company. Short term, right now, it's just not really bouncing well. It's not participating with the market. For what it's worth, I don't like the company, but I think PayPal had a better report. And I think they're starting to get momentum and starting to turn things around, the new CEO there. So, if you're looking to go out, you can look at a name like PayPal, kind of holding in here. And, PayPal to me gets pushing up here, needs to clear these wicks. You have a bunch of them. You even have a little downtrend you could draw here. And I always look to see, so you can draw it like this. But if it takes that out, then it can pop up and retest that $70.50 high. The other one in the same space, guys, is UPST. UPST had a blowout report. It was kind of a surprise to a lot of us. Big move up. Again, this is what you call power gap, right? Power's earnings gap. You push up, never even touched the gap, didn't do anything since then. Up, up, and up. I wouldn't be chasing it up here. It's come into some resistance up here. Here's your previous, right, your previous range high. But if it wants to push, it can definitely push above this. I would prefer to see it reconnect with the 8-day for an entrance on this one and see how that trades. But these are just better looking stocks in the same sector. LVMUY. Go ahead and pop names in there, guys, so we can keep going here. I don't know this one. Oh, Louis Vuitton, got it. Yeah. Again, doesn't do much in the way of volume. It's more of a holding name here on the US. It's a European stock. That's why you get all these gaps on it. And I really don't like trading names like this because of the gaps all over the place. The one thing I know is that the high-end retailer, they've said has really slowed down their purchasing, which, I would expect that to be the case with the lower end consumer, but the high end has really cut back on their spending, and they've been seeing it here. So, I would be a little careful with this one here. I can't say I love it. I don't like the retail sector in general right now with the economy like it is. I think the average consumer is in trouble. And, this one here, maybe you have a double bottom here, maybe a possible double bottom. It came down a little lower on it, this leg. But again, until it can break above the 21-day, I can't say I really like this name here. Maybe I like it there. For me, retail is a tough space. I tend to generally avoid it mostly. We had Home Depot this morning, and Home Depot was a disaster, and they brought that back, which I can't believe they brought that back, to be honest with you. But that guidance was horrific, but it still held a 200-day. You get Walmart on Thursday, I think. BBSI. I don't know these names. You like these little names, don't you, bud? You really like these little guys. Again, the first thing that stands out for me here is this gap that, I'm guessing that was earnings here. They didn't like it. They sold it off down a little bit. So the first thing I watch is if it can get in that gap, it goes back up and fills, and it looks good back up to that 36 area. And then if they didn't really like it, then 37 comes back in play. If this was just maybe too far, too fast, I don't know anything about the company, so I can't give you any information on it. I like the fact that it's been holding the 50-day. So the 50-day would be where I would have my stop loss on here on this one. So 50 days important, 35 area, that has to hold. Micron, love Micron. So one thing we know about all these AI chips is they use a tremendous amount of memory. And Micron is Micron's the big benefactor of that. Their report was good, their guidance was good, they got sold off anyway, and then they got caught up in this recent sell-off here, and you now have two gaps sitting here to go up and fill if they ever want to get up there. But right now, today's the first time it's poked its head over the 8 days since earnings up here. So, it needs to fill up. We'll see if it fills that gap. Your 200-day is right there as well. Had that gap fill at the 102 area, just a little above it. And here's your 21 day coming down. So, that's the area it's going to have to break. This 102 area will become the grudge match if it continues to bounce. Again, the semi sector in general has been in a weaker phase here and not trading as well. So, it's not leading. Maybe Nvidia changes that and wakes the whole sector up in 2 weeks, but a little bit more cautious on it. Although I was trading Nvidia today, I am long AMD stock at this point. If it comes back down, 85 would be a big level to hold on that one. And that was the right. Had filled this gap. You have another little gap sitting there. You can see it right here. That gap comes down to a little lower. And then eventually you'd really want to make sure you held this 79 area. So you got some couple levels to watch to the downside as well. Boeing. Finally got a new CEO, thank God, because the last one was doing a horrible job. This company needs a culture change, a major culture change in a big way. And it's just been this weak phase. And every time it starts to look good, this name just something else goes wrong. I mean, news out again today that they're slowing down deliveries yet again. And you can see what's been going on. I mean, look at these gaps. I mean, it just this big gap, it never even tested it, doesn't care. These smaller ones get filled here. You got a little gap sitting in here from the other day. If it ever wants to go up and get it. Right now, important thing is, does it hold below? Right. So your 52-week low is 159.26. Is it going to hold there? It's in a bear flag formation, right? You got your little down pull here and your little flag, oops, and your little flag right there. And, does it hold this or not? Right now it's a bear flag until something changes. Today it popped up, only hit the 8-day moving average, so not a lot of power, still didn't even get through it. It's going to have to get through that. If this does not hold, right, then we have to go out and look at a little bit more in time. All right, here's your 5-year chart. If this does not hold and you lose these recent lows, there is not a lot of support down this area. Maybe you pick up a little down here around this 142, 143 area, but it could find its way back to 120 if this is bad. Companies become very difficult. I mean, nothing you can see here. Look at this. Remember, this thing was $400 or pushing that level. I wish it would turn around. I used to love trading this. It's become a difficult team to trade. It just doesn't trade very well. Earnings have not been good in general. They're burning through cash flow at an alarming rate. They're not going to be they're going to be cash flow negative again this year. Probably going to have to do an offering at some point to make up for that. So I just think better names out there than that one at this point, unless you really love them. But then it's a long-term hold. Meta, love me some Meta. All right, so we had the report, nice big gap up, but got caught up in the shenanigans of last week and came in. And when I always look at a company and when I want to buy, and when we get a time like we've had the last week, a couple weeks, is who had really good earnings and who stands out. And Meta's earnings were a blowout, right? Those earnings were just unbelievably good. If you wanted to ding them for one thing, it was their CapEx expenditure was going to be high. But Zuck on the call said, we're spending a lot to create new products to make that will pay dividends for us and for you down the road. And you know what? Yep, I can't say I like their Reality Labs. It's losing a fortune every quarter, but they can afford it right now, and the stock is pushing up. They have huge cash reserves. They're doing massive buybacks. They guided up huge. And this is an election year. And this is why it was one of my outperform names this year. And back in December, I said this would probably outperform the market. In election years, we know we get a lot of advertisings, a lot of spending. And we really just starting to see that start to ramp up now, especially as we go into the Democratic National Convention next week. Then things will really pick up as we'll get down to, coming up on 2 weeks, 2 months to go to the election, and you'll see a lot more spending and ads coming out. And don't, Meta's going to certainly get their share with Facebook and Instagram and everything else. So for me, I bought it last week. Honest answer, I bought it on Monday in the carnage. And right now, like to move up here. And it came up today and tested this 530 area. And the all-time high is sitting up here at 5235. I don't see any reason why it can't go up and get that. The market's strong, it should go up and get that. And then, if the market wants to push, this one can go much higher and start pushing out and going to blue skies. I'm already long it. I bought it back last Monday, and we'll see where it goes. I haven't sold any of it yet. Honest answer. So, to me, that's one of the best names in that space. Disney. Yeah. Well, I don't have much good to say about this stock anymore. Every time somebody tells me that this company is too cheap, it should be bought, I'm like, let them give me a reason. We don't have one. So, here's this big gap after they loved this report, right? We never tested, held that gap nicely. You had a head and shoulders pattern developed into that earnings report. They dropped it like a rock. You can see the 21-day has been resistance. So since back here in May, we have not been able to break and hold above the 21-day. We gapped above it, but came back and closed on it. And, here we are coming down, and, you start looking and say, well, where am I going to find support on this one? Well, came into this area, picked up some area down here. Your 52-week low is trading down here into the 78 level. Their report looked decent on paper until because they talked about their streaming was turning a profit and doing much better. I don't know if you realize that they cut tons of their shows back on streaming. You're not giving anywhere near the new shows we used to get, especially in the Marvel and the Disney universe there. Not the Marvel and Star Wars universe there. And then the real kicker came out on the call, and that their park sales are soft. Again, sign of a consumer. Now, if you haven't been to Disney with your family lately or been there on your own, their costs have gone astronomically through the roof. Costing close to 200 days on a single pass at a park per day, $200 per ticket. They took away all the free fast passes and free transportation, a lot of it too. So they've really kind of changed what's going on there. They're charging for everything, and they're seeing it. The consumer can't afford. I used to know people used to go every year with their kids. Now they haven't gone in 3 or 4 years. They said it's just too much money. And, let's realize it. The parks are their core business. While we talk about movies and we talk about streaming, the parks are their core business. So there's no real reason to get into this at this point, unless you think the market's going to change or the economy is going to quickly turn. To me, it's not a buy until it gets above the 21-day. And if not, it can keep dropping down, and then we'd watch that 78 area. Microsoft. Guys, if you put your symbols out there, I'd be happy to go over them for you. Microsoft here. First of all, the report was decent. There was nothing wrong with that report. It wasn't a killer report. It was a decent report. Sorry, puppy's in a mood today. Hang on 1 second. All right. There's nothing wrong with it. I thought the report was decent here. I just don't know if they have the power to go anywhere right now. I think they're kind of caught in this whole sideways market, and they're not sure what's going on. Here, take that. Chew on that. Good boy. All right. It took back the 8-day finally. And by the way, that was important because since earnings, the 8-day has been resistance, has not been able to take it back here. The next stop for me is the 21-day, and then we'll see if we can push up into the 100 area. This area right here, this 430 area was a resistance. So probably will be resistance again as it comes up into it. It found support last week at 385 level. So pretty much bounced just a little bit below where this last bounce hold was. It's not a pretty looking chart right now. Honestly, Arnon, I don't particularly like it. I don't dislike it. I think long term it'll go back up. I just don't think it's not leading. And I'm looking for names that are leading here. Roku. Well, um, this used to be a really good name and a good trader. I think they're just I think they're just overwhelmed here at this point, RK. They just, they're struggling to make money. They're losing money. They're trying to add to streaming. Streaming is turning into a nightmare for companies as they're trying to be, the only company that seems to be doing well with it right now is Netflix. Everybody else, you look at their stocks, Para, WBD, Fubo, they're all struggling big time. The last report was better than expected, but still not good enough to hold it up and prop it up. It's at a trading off a 52 week low here recently. I don't have much I like here. Um, I really just don't have much I like on this one. Nice little candle today. I guess for me, it needs to clear 60. So if it was able to clear 60, that might signal that maybe there's something to be had there. There's been a lot of action around that level. You have a lot of, you see a lot of candles came down here to the 60 level. Then maybe it can push back up to 66 and retest the 200-day. But it's going to take something. I wouldn't be surprised if you start hearing buyout chatter on this name. I just have to think they're going to get to that point where somebody's going to look at them to buy them out. And it probably would not be a Google or an Amazon or an Apple because they all have their own devices and their own streaming services. It would probably be somebody like a Microsoft or somebody that we can't think of. Netflix would be interesting if they wanted to try to get into the hardware space, but I think they're going to avoid that and they like just being able to be on everybody else's devices. Sorry, I wish I had nicer things to say. I used to love this company. And you? Nice fee bounce, well off the bottom here. The first thing that steps out to me is this 13 level. Right here, you can see that was where it came up to, so that should be resistance again if it cops up to there. So that's the area it's going to need to clear to get going. Then you're going to have to take it as your high up here of 13, a little higher, 1370-ish. Let me look at something a second here. Yeah, where are they located? Brazilian, Mexico, Colombian, Cayman Islands. Okay. Digital banking. I don't know. I've heard of them. I don't know a lot about them. I don't know enough about the company. Stock looks okay. If it can get above these levels, it can run after 1350. That's an all-time high. So your blue skies. By the way, this is a nice pattern on a weekly chart. So whenever you look at a recent IPO, this is the type of pattern you're looking for. If you go back in time and look at Facebook, when it was Facebook and stuff, this is the type of this U-shaped pattern you get that projects it higher. So as it's coming off, you look for that and you're looking for to clear the IPO high and get going. So nice move. So if it can push up, they like what this one's doing. It's a good looking chart. I don't know much about the company, but it's a good looking chart. Does good amount of volume a day. Thank you. Like that one. What about some other names, guys? Netflix. So we were talking about this on Spaces today. Netflix is the only one of those quote unquote big tech companies that hasn't made an all-time high. Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Nvidia, right? Google, right? They've all gone up and made all-time highs up here. Their last report was just one of those reports that you kind of scratched your head. They said they know, they two reports. They want to be treated like a media company. They don't want to be treated like a streaming company anymore. Well, if you look at media companies, they don't trade well. They don't trade at the multiples that Netflix trades at. So that was here's your big candle that was on earnings, and that's why you got this big wide range move on that because of that. So, I think the market's trying to decide what its valuation is and what its valuation is worth. and how much people are willing to keep paying for just a straight streaming from them. So it's back at the 50-day today. That's a decent level. If it can break above that, it can try working its way back towards 680. If I remember correctly, the all-time high is somewhere up around 710 or 714 in that area. 710, 711 seems to ring a bell. So it got close a couple months ago, but couldn't get the power to get through it. I remember I was charting it and we were trading it, looking for that move. So it needs to break back above the 50-day. 670 is going to be resistance. It was support. And then you're going to have more resistance here at 690 before you get to 700. To the downside, if it comes back down, you'd like it to hold the 8-day. If it cannot hold the 8-day, there's really not much here. You kind of came through here and you had a little bit of a base area down here, the 607 area, but the 200-day may pick it up. That whole sector is just tough, guys. When you look at the charts, Para is just a disaster, right? Paramount Network, I mean, just horrible. Then you have HBO, Warner Brothers Discovery, another one. I mean, look at these charts. They're just horrible charts. They're just horrible run companies. They're just a very tough business, and they don't do much. I mean, I prefer. I think Netflix is probably the best in that area. It's just a tough business, a very, very tough business. Surprised nobody's talked about this. Let's look at NVIDIA while we're waiting for you guys to put up some more tickers. So NVIDIA is what you kind of want to see in a market like this coming off the lows. NVIDIA is leading back up here. And if you look carefully on NVIDIA, there's something it did that's very important the last 2 days. One is it gapped up yesterday, trapping shorts, and then it gapped up again today, trapping shorts again. And this is the type of strength. When you see a name gap up and the market comes in and it holds, that's showing you it has a lot of power. Took back the 8-day yesterday with a gap up, took back the 21-day today. My next target here is the 50-day at 120. And if we can, and then we'll see what earnings brings us. If it wants to work up from there, then you start looking up here at the 125 level. Those are your levels up. To the downside, if this is a head fake, well, it can come down and fill these two gaps and come back down here into the 102 area. The 100 area has been hard contested as well. It did fill this gap from last time, that last earnings report, FYI. Overall, though, I think it's the best company to be in. I don't think it's done. I don't think this AI trade is over, just for what it's worth. I think we're still in the early innings of it, and we still haven't seen the software companies get involved yet. Amazon, full disclosure, I was long Amazon. I sold half of it before earnings, and I bought half of it. Bought it back here on last Monday into the carnage. Do I think Amazon's earnings were good? No. Do I think they were horrific? No, they weren't horrific either. They just weren't great. We were looking for better. I think the big problem with that one was we didn't get any of that AI information that we're looking for yet. And I think everybody's looking for that AI news in that one. However, what it did do on this flush, it came down, bottomed out. It did fill this gap. So this gap's not now gone. And what I like going on here is it's trying to recapture the 200-day. It closed right on it today, the green line. Your next move, it goes into this gap. There's a nice big hole here. I would look for a move up to the 21-day, right? So wherever that's set up, that would be your next resistance as you go through this gap. And if the market takes off, it can work its way all the way back up to this recent low and try to get going there. If the market sells off, well, then it's back down and you look for areas of support and, take some of this out of here now that we looked at this. So you're looking for support, you come down and you say, well, where would I find support? So right there, oh, look at that. Old area of resistance became support. And that's an area we came into and we use it as support. We could see a lot of action around there. So you watch that 162.50 area if it comes down. Overall, I like Amazon. That's why I'm in it. I think it's one of the company that I think is better valued here than some of the other ones. How you doing there, buddy? Yeah. Apple. Apple's showing you exactly what you want to see in a market like this, strength. Now, we did have a head and shoulders pattern that had developed here on Apple. Here's your left shoulder, here's your head, here's your right shoulder, and here was your neckline, okay? This big gap, which we filled, but this gap right here came from two things last Monday. You guys remember what those two were? The first was over the weekend. It came out and it was announced that Warren Buffett had dumped half of his stake in Apple. It's still his largest position by far, but that was a negative and it was going to be down because of that. And then we had the whole Japan thing. We got beaten up. The truth is, I should have bought Apple as well. Came down here, found support around this 196 level, and now it's leading back up. And I think that's what you're looking for in this. You're looking for names that are leading. It's showing leadership. It's leading itself back up. There's a nice move back up on this one here as it's pushing. And the next move is to the 225 level. Why 225? Because, well, that's where this candle was. So that's your earnings candle, right? In that area up there, the high off of earnings. So that would be your next level to watch if it wants to push. And if the market's really strong, then we'll see if we can get pushing up into this 230 level, and then your all-time highs up here at 237 and change. So, overall, Apple's one of the better names out there. They still have their huge cash hoard. They continue to hit it out. We do have their iPhone event, which is coming up September, October. I don't think they've announced a date yet. That is coming not too far down the road. I'm going to give you guys a heads up while you guys post some more. We'll talk Google real quick. If you're not paying attention after hours tonight, Google is down a couple bucks after hours last I saw. Google's been a weaker phase. They got hit by the Department of Justice is targeting them for a breakup. Now, we've heard this multiple times before, but this is coming off their recent success, and they're looking at that. So getting beaten up a little bit here. Google's report was not the best, guys. And the problem with their report was they said it's going to take a while to monetize AI, whereas Microsoft's already doing it. We're seeing companies like Salesforce already doing it, and others already doing it here. So they've been in a weak phase since then. The 8-day has been a problem. The gold line, here it is into it again here today and yesterday, still struggling to get through it. And, see where we go from here overall in a weaker phase. May want to come down and retest that 200-day, see how it opens tomorrow, see how it reacts. I will say this, these fears of breaking companies up, it takes long, many, many years. Administrations change. So, I would not overly think that or overly worry about it. SMCI, I think, is one of the more dangerous companies to trade out there. You want to invest in it, I think that's fine, but trading it moves so fast and it's so volatile, and the options are so thin on it, and it doesn't do a lot of volume on a daily basis. Their last report, again, problem was, they talked about delays with NVIDIA's Blackwell chip, and that's kind of coming in and affecting them, and their costs are up. Now, they are doing a 10-for-1 split. I don't remember the date that's going to take place. But overall, it came down here, and it found some support on this 475 level for now, right in the middle of this little cluster. All right, so, the first thing I thought of after that report was, could it find some support here at 500? It didn't. It went below it briefly, but 500 probably would have held if we didn't have the problems, came down. Now it's sitting up here on the 8-day, and it's at a decision point. You got a doji style candle there today. So if it's going to pop up, you have this gap sitting up here. You got to watch out a little bit over 625 and see what it wants to do from there. And go from there at this point, at level by level. Again, they're also in them and Dell and everybody else is going to be under investigation by the United States Department of Justice for buying NVIDIA AI chips, putting them in their servers, and then shipping them to China and getting around their sanctions. So, something to keep in mind. There's going to be some research into that at some point as we move forward. Four strongest stocks besides the ones we've mentioned. We've talked about a lot of them. Four strongest stocks, because I talked a lot of names in the sector, different sectors here. Let's take a look around. Let me think here for a minute. We didn't talk about. That's a tough question. I don't have an easy answer. We talked about a lot of the names I like right now in the big tech space. I tend to like to stay focused on big tech. Palantir we talked about. I like that name. Starbucks we didn't talk about. Obviously, this news is off of news. That was just incredible news today that they managed to steal away the CEO of Chipotle to come over and run them. Your next level will be up here at 97. Just keep in mind this thing's extremely extended right now. That is a Herculean move for Starbucks, but that is a type of move that could lead to higher price action and change the culture within this company. 106 area being your next big resistance if it wants to keep going. Speaking of that same sector, McDonald's has been trying to perk back up. I'm a little cautious on this one. Needs to get above the 200 day. I would like this one as well, but it needs to really start going from there and start growing. Overall, the market here remains tough for these names. I think we nailed most of the ones I'm looking at. I'm not really looking all that far. I'm sticking close to home. I'm sticking with the trade that's been working this year, and those are the tech names, and then specifically AI, the AI trade. I don't think that's over. Adobe's been tough. Snow earnings next week are going to be interesting to me. Snow has been beaten to a pulp, and this a hack there. They gave other customers data to other people amongst each other. It's just bad. We'll see how that's going to affect them. To me, it's got to get it back above 130 to get going there on that one. I'd be careful with that one. All right. Okay, that's enough. Good boy. Thanks. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know. I don't have any good off the top of my head. We covered the ones I would probably be in, so I can't really help you with that one. We should talk Tesla as long as we're here. Everybody's gonna want to talk Tesla. All right, let's talk Tesla because there's a lot to talk about what's going on here with this name. So first of all, we know the EV space remains extremely weak, and their earnings represented that and show that again that they're not that great. The other thing going on here is there's a lot of hype around the full FSD, full, no hands driving, and the cars doing basically coming robo taxis. And that event was supposed to have taken place already. It's now been pushed back until October, I think October 10th or something around then. I don't remember the date exactly. I think Tesla will try to rally into that event. Today, it took a big step here. It finally broke this ledge here at 200, popped above the 200 day, and it filled this gap. Your next big test is 211.52. That's your 50 day, and there's your 100 day at 213.70. Above that, then it can really try to rally back up into that 235 area and see if it wants to get into that gap. How they're going to monetize this and how close it is going to be very important when he presents this. One thing about Elon is Elon always oversells stuff, and it takes much longer for it to become out. And he's even admitted that recently when he's done some of his talking. So, you're going to need a very good presentation that shows that this is ready to be rolled out in the very near future. Now, we know it can be done because we know we have, we're seeing this out, especially in California, in the cities. They do have these cars out there that are already doing this on their own. But I would definitely keep an eye on Tesla. It's waking up here to see if it can get going again for the first time. Today was the first nice day on that one. The casino space I don't like. We got to talk Lilly. Got to talk Lilly. Want another one strong. I love Lilly. This I had by one of my outperform names for 3 years in a row, and it totally has done that. This gap up here looks like it's coming into play, and it'll probably try to push through there. So I would definitely stick with this one. Last week they came out with news about their heart drug, which just passed just did its phase 3 trials, which looks great, which will be another blockbuster drug for them. And you realize they have their Alzheimer's drug, now they have their weight loss drug, now you're going to have this drug, and this company's just knocking out of the park. Could probably use a 10-for-1 split would be nice around now, or even a 5-for-1, but this one looks like it wants to go back up and retake the all-time highs. I think this one is just, a cash flow machine. And the other one that I would always say is one of the strongest names out there is Costco. Costco is, it's just a giant. They do things better than most of the rest of the companies out there. Nice bounce here. Same store sales strong. Their rate increase for the first time in years goes to effect in September, I think. That's a $5 bump. If you didn't realize it, Costco makes all their money, almost all their profits come off of that membership fee. They're also cracking down on it, so you're going to have your own card to get in now. No more borrowing your friends. So nice move here in Costco. This is perfect for this type of economy. If the consumer's struggling, they're going to go out, they're going to try to find ways to save money. I like this one to go back to all-time highs as well. So there you go. There's a couple for you. Cat, I'm not a fan of cat right now. China remains in a recession and in a very tough spot. And the whole world is, it's kind of in and out of this. So very tough for me right now to like cat. Cat tends to do very well when China's doing well, typically. So last report wasn't special, but they did come back and fill the gap. When you look at this chart, 350 is a spot to clear. And then up here, let's take that out. Let's take it from here. Up around this 362.50 area will be another level to clear to the upside. If not, 200-day support, and that would be an area I'd watch for it on there if you like it long term. All right, we're coming up on about a couple minutes to go here. What else, guys? Any other symbols you want me to look at? My voice is getting fairly shot here. I hope this has been really helpful for you so far. Oxy, I'm not a fan. I know Uncle Warren loves this company. He keeps buying and buying more of it and buying more of it. But this chart's a mess. And 55 has been support all year, and anytime it gets down here, Berkshire has been buying it, and the whole energy space is messy. It's not looking great right now. If you're going to buy any company there, Arnold, I like ExxonMobil. The chart is just so much cleaner and better right now, and I like it on a break of 120. So if I had to buy one company in that space right now, it would be ExxonMobil. Taiwan Semi, TSM. So this name gets unfairly beaten up at times for no good reason. So their last report was stellar. They guided up again. They always guide up, and they got sold off on that, and for no really good reason on any of this. It's unclear why they did. It just happens. They just released their July sales, which were a record-breaking sales. Just incredible sales on their part, and they're just very strong. And to me, leading in the semis, right? Like NVIDIA, look at this bounce moving up. They're, they make, nobody realizes this. They make AMD's chips, they make NVIDIA's chips, they make Apple's chips. Guess who else's high-end chips they make? Who cannot make their own chips, who wants you all to believe they can make a foundry and do other chips for people? Intel. They make Intel's high-end chips too. So they make everybody's high-end chips. They have the best technology out there. That gap's a big area. I would watch that to go back into that. And if the semis wake up, this is one of my favorite companies that can push. And as long as we're talking about the semis, let's just talk quickly about ARM. I'm kind of starting to like ARM again down here off these areas. So, the problem with ARM is they don't make anything. They only get money on, on residuals, basically. Every time somebody sells an ARM-based processor, they get a piece of it because they do the design work on it. Its valuation was just way too high up here. It's better back down here. You see it's well above its IPO high still. I was actually hoping it was going to come down. I could have gotten it 79, but that just wasn't to be. That said, this bounce is tepid still. It's not leading. I think you're better with NVIDIA and TSM, to be honest with you, in that space. So guys, if you want to join me, I offer a trading room. Come over to smartoptiontrading.com right here, and you click on live trading alerts and come and join us. We're live every day from 9 till 4 at least. Sometimes we stay later for earnings. Like today's like tomorrow, we'll open the room at 8:30. And you're going to get option flow news, my trades, and everything else we see going on there real time. I really want to thank you guys all for joining me tonight and being with me and allowing me to do this. It's been a pleasure having you guys all here. And I hope this helps you guys in your trading. I do a lot of charts on Sundays, so you always can keep an eye on that if you follow me at Options Mike on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it now. And with that said, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to wish you guys a wonderful evening. And David, thanks for having me back on.